Hi there, my name is Matthew Commons, Chief Executive Officer of Cambridge Blockchain. Cambridge Blockchain makes an identity management platform for multinational banks. Our platform puts control of personal identity data back in the hands of the end user. And by doing this, we're able to meet the most stringent global privacy requirements, we're able to eliminate redundant compliance steps, and we're able to improve the end user experience. Let me explain why this is needed. There are actually two very different goals for identity compliance. One goal is really around stopping bad behavior. So this includes things like the Know Your Customer process, anti-money laundering, tax compliance. A separate goal is around protecting privacy. Each country has its own data privacy rules, and in Europe, they're coming out with some of the most stringent data privacy rules in 2018 through something called the General Data Protection Regulation. For banks, getting either of these goals wrong can be enormously expensive. Last year, banks spent $18 billion in Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering compliance costs and fines. And in the European Union, penalties for privacy breaches can be up to 4% of worldwide revenue. But it's really difficult to build a single system to solve both of these challenges, because stopping bad behavior requires lots of access to personal identity data, while protecting privacy limits access to that exact same type of data. The result is that for multinational financial institutions, each bank ends up repeating the same identity checks over and over again, and sometimes even different divisions within the same bank are repeating the same checks. This costs billions, and it is an enormous hassle for consumers who have to provide the same documentation multiple times to different institutions or different parts of the same institution. Our model is one where personal data is always under the client's control. This makes compliance with data privacy rules much easier, because no matter where you are in the world, it's always simpler for the client themselves to share personal identifiable information than to have one division of the bank share it with another, or to rely on a centralized utility. Also, by having this under client control, clients can reuse identity checks between different institutions. They can update their information in one location, which can be pushed out to the institutions where they're working with. And those institutions can validate that what the customers are sharing is correct by comparing it to a cryptographic proof that is stored in a shared blockchain ledger. This provides an immutable audit trail that can be relied on by the financial institutions, but also relied on by regulators and other stakeholders. Now, in the Cambridge blockchain system, what is unique is that the blockchain actually doesn't contain any personal identifiable information itself. It only contains one-way cryptographic proofs. So if a customer shares some piece of identity information, such as a scan of a passport, then a party can use the blockchain to validate that it's correct. But by accessing the blockchain itself, the blockchain contains nothing that can go backwards and figure out what the identity data is in the first place. Goldman Sachs issued a report just last month highlighting identity management as one of the key areas for blockchain. And they've estimated between $3 and $5 billion of annual savings with this technology. Cambridge Blockchain is uniquely positioned to capture this opportunity. Because number one, we've already built the core technology to make this work. We have multiple patents in this area, and we have some of the world's leading experts that are working with us, and customer relationships with some of the largest banks that can actually implement it. We started last year validating our potential with a use case around an insurance-linked bond called a catastrophe bond. We could show that you could reduce the issuance time of a catastrophe bond from 60 days down to 18 days, and the issuance cost from over $1 million to less than half that. And since our identity management module was the core piece required to make this work, we've decided to go to market with a standalone identity product that we're using to streamline identity checks for a global private wealth manager who has client accounts in many different jurisdictions. Going forward, we're working with a larger group of banks to set up a bank-funded entity for customer control of personal identity data. So just like the SWIFT network was set up in the late 1960s to allow interbank messaging, this network will allow banks to share validated identity attributes about their clients. I don't have time to talk about all of our team members. I will highlight Alex Oberhauser, our CTO. He founded the blockchain engineering program at the University of Amsterdam and has been building blockchains from scratch since 2010, which is ancient history in this space. We won a global blockchain competition hosted by Santander earlier this year, beating out over 150 global competitors. We're in an intensive software development program now with 4 leading banks. You should see a press release about this in about 2 weeks. We have 3 patents filed, 2 in process. We were chosen the best B2B startup in the HBS New Venture competition. We have a $1 million convertible note. We've had 2 closes on that already. We should have our final close in about 2 months, and a Series A planned for late 2016. Thank you very much.
Thank you.